Hi guys, welcome to my first at-home video. I wanted to just give you a little background on my gardening style. It's really laid back. It's totally normal. I know a lot of us watch videos online of these professional gardeners or even non-professionals that are very meticulous and everything looks perfect, and they never have a weed growing in their garden bed. That is not me. That will never be me. I first off don't have the time to do that. I like dandelions in my lawn. I don't know, call me crazy. And I tend to not use a whole lot of chemical types of products if I don't have to. So I promised you today that I was going to show you some pruning out back on what I consider my Nemesis Hill. There's my dog. That's Fred. And the Nemesis Hill, I have been battling for years and years and years and years. Fred says hi. And so anyway, this hill, I've tried to garden it. I've done a few little garden beds here and there on it. But the ground itself is really, it's not great for growing. It's a clay base. There's a lot of rock. I have a lot of ledge. I am in the woods and I feed the birds, and the birds tend to pick up a lot of the wild blackberries that we have growing around the property, and they dispose of them through their poop so nicely in places that I don't want them to. So this one area of bramble, as I called it, is where the birds had deposited it. And I let it go for maybe 3 years, which I shouldn't have because now it's a little out of control. But I can control it now with the method that I will show you in a little bit easily before it totally leafs out. Because once it leafed out last year, there was no way I was getting underneath it to cut it and do what I need to do. So anyway, to lead up to that, I wanted to show you a few of my favorite products, and because I'm going to do some pruning, I wanted to kind of go over the different pruning tools, the different types, and what they're used for, because I think there's a lot of confusion there for people. They don't know what to do. But the first thing I want to show you is my favorite gloves. They are Bellingham Wonder Grips, and these are them. I love these gloves. First off, I have teeny tiny hands, and they do come in a small, and they fit my hands perfectly, and they're tight on my fingers, or as tight as I can get them, which is nice. So it's as close to using your hands as possible. I don't use gloves a lot, but when I'm doing something like this with prickers, and you need something. So anyway, these are my favorites, and they come in pink, but they also come in other colors. So these are the ones that I recommend. But everybody has their favorites. Mud gloves are a popular item. There's some of the cooling gloves, which are really thin for hot summer projects if you choose to wear gloves. So those are the ones. These are the ones that I recommend, but you pick your own. So I wanted to go over a line of tools that we have at the store that I really like. I tend to gravitate towards this brand, Fiskars, which everybody knows those as scissors. But they have a fantastic line of gardening tools, which includes your pruners and your hand tools, hand trowels, and that type of thing. So this is my favorite hand trowel, which is this one here. As you can see, it's got a nice point on the bottom of it. So that makes digging really, really easy. But it also has this serrated edge on the side. I kind of call this my all-in-one tool because you can dig with it. It also has you can see the inch markers for when you're planting your bulbs, so you don't need to use that bulb planter thing. You can just use this. And the serrated edge makes it really easy to cut through either grass if you're building a new garden bed, but it's also really good for dividing perennials. So if you're digging something up and you need to cut through it, and that serrated edge would help you cut through the roots for when you're dividing. And actually, I'm going to be using this one a little later today, leading up to a video probably for next week, where I'll be going to, later today, I'm going to a friend's house to dig up some perennials that he has way too many of. And I'm going to replant them in my yard because I can't get them anymore because they're one of these old plants that, has disappeared. And it's one of my favorites. So this is my favorite hand trowel. This is the all-in-one. Also in that line, there is the cultivator, which is this thing here. It has a really good angle to it, and I like that they're not all the same length. So there's a couple shorter ones and the longer one. This is great for working in your garden beds. You can use it to spread mulch, you can use it to dig up weeds, do whatever, but a cultivator, a little short rake like this is perfect. The other reason I like Fiskars is because it's all one piece. It's not two pieces put together, so you don't have to worry about them separating or breaking. And it has a really good grip on it. And even for my small hands, it fits my hand good. It feels good in my hand, and that's important because if you're gonna be using them a lot, you really want it to be comfortable in your hand. So, cultivator. One of the newer items that they came out with is called an edger. This thing looks dangerous, but this is really cool. I always remember at my parents' house, they had a brick walkway, and I remember my mother down there with a butter knife in between the grout, per se, of the brick walkway trying to get the weeds out. And she'd do it with a butter knife, like really a butter knife. So this right here would be perfect, and she would have loved that for doing that. So it's got that nice little piece there. I'm sure you can find other uses for it. And then this is it's kind of a flattened edge. You can see that. It's not sharp, but it's pointed for your edging. So you can edge your garden beds and things like that. I thought this was a really cool tool. And again, it's one piece with the rubberized handle on it. This is kind of neat. I'm kind of excited about this one. So anyway, so that's your edger tool. So to get into the pruners, the one that I'm going to be using today, because my brambles are alive and they are green, at this point they're not dead. So the ones that I'm going to be using are your bypass pruners, which are these here. So by bypass, what it means is one blade bypasses the other, and that's how it makes the cut. The bypass pruners are best for any of your green type of material that you're cutting. Generally, you don't want to cut any more than like 1 inch to 1.5 inches with these. This says it can go up to 3/4 of an inch. I've broken the rules on that and been okay, but you got to be real careful because you can bend one of the blades, and then they're kind of useless at that point because you can't really bend them back. So anyway, for all of your green type stuff up to 1 inch, use a bypass pruner. Fantastic. So the other one is your anvil, which is where one blade hits against, where the blade hits against a flat surface, and it cuts it that way. The anvils are great for any dead branches, any dead woody stuff that you have. Again, try to keep it 3/4 of an inch and under, just so that you don't bend the blade. But these are fantastic. I use this style a lot with my hydrangeas. In the spring, with your macrophyllus, you can see which branches have come up and have growth on them. You obviously don't want to cut those because those branches are the ones that hold the flower buds for this year. So if you cut those, you're losing your flowers, and that's why we grow hydrangeas, right? But you can see this time of the year which ones are not going to leaf out. Those are the ones that you want to be cutting, and this is the pruner for that. So that's your anvil. The next one is a precise pruner, this one here, and I love this one. The reason that you would use this one is for when you're cutting your herbs or something really fine and dainty and you really need to get in there tight. That's when you would use this style pruner. These are great for when you're doing your flower bouquets and you're cutting, you know, your stem out of the base of the plant, or like I said, doing your herbs or whatever. This is a great pruner for that. Fantastic. So the last one that I'm going to talk about is your loppers, and these are the big monster ones for your big branches. This one will go up to 1.75 inches. That's it there. I chose this one to show you because it does have a telescoping handle on it, which is fantastic. So if you need to get taller, you know, I'm short. I'm 5 foot tall, really 4'11". But anyway, So this gives me a little bit extra reach with the telescoping, and it really gives you a lot of manipulation, and you know, you can really crank down on it and snap off some of those bigger branches. So that's your loppers. So that would fill your toolbox for gardening as far as I'm concerned. There are a few other specialty tools, especially that Fiskars puts out, some of your grass trimmers and things like that. But I don't do that because I'm not meticulous. But if you do, then get some of those. So I'm gonna wrap this part up, and I'm gonna see you in a little bit when I start to prune back those brambles. And I'm probably gonna get all scratched up, but it's what we do, isn't it? All right, you guys, see you in a bit. Hi guys. So I am out back where my brambles are growing that I wanted to control. And I had mentioned before that I don't use a lot of chemicals on my property. I choose not to with the dogs and kids, and I choose not to. But there are certain situations where you do need to use some sort of a chemical control. And this is one of them, because I can't get rid of these things by digging. Their roots usually go pretty low into the ground, and they're kind of a pain because they're all prickery and yucky. So this is one of the situations that I do use a chemical, but I use it in a manner that I can control it really, really well. Ortho puts out a product. I called it Brush Be Gone before. That's what the old name was. They have since changed the name and the style of the bottle to Poison Ivy and Tough Brush Killer. This is a concentrate. It's this bottle right here. This is a concentrate form, so it's meant to be mixed with water, and sometimes you can spray it over a large area if you're looking to eradicate a lot of brush or what have you. I don't use it in that manner. It can also be used in a concentrate form the way that I'm going to use it today. I find that I have a lot more control over it this way, and I'm not adding as much to the environment because I am specifically putting it where I want to and not just spraying it over an entire area. So what I do is I take the cap and I pour the concentrate right in it like this. And then I use just a regular foam brush, if you can see that, in concentrate form. So what I do is spin around, come over to my brambles, is I cut the stems first, and when it's a fresh cut like that, I take this concentrate form and I brush it directly on that fresh cut. And so this works through the plant itself and down to the root system. Sometimes with something like a bramble, or you can do this with poison ivy too, or any of those types of weedy type plants. But generally what will happen is you kill that main stalk and then it pops up somewhere else. So I usually tell people, if they're clearing an area, to kind of focus an entire season on making sure that you've eradicated whatever this weed or woody yucky stuff is that you're looking to get rid of before you start planting in there, because it just makes it so much harder if you plant the area and then have to go back in and do your pruning and your brushing and the whole 9 yards. So try to focus a whole season on eradicating what it is, especially poison ivy, because you can kill it in one area and all of a sudden it pops up in another. Talk about a nemesis. So anyway, so I have already pre-cut some of these, and I'm going to show you how to brush it on. It's really simple. All right, so here's my bramble patch. Like I said, these are the wild blackberries that a bird had deposited. This is my nemesis hill that I work on. I'll spin you around a little bit. You can kind of see some of it. That whole area there gets filled with leucanthemums. I have some oxeye daisies that have just taken over that area that I did in seed form. They're beautiful once they start flowering, but I have some Russian cypress growing in there too. Long story on this hill, but I won't get into it now. So anyway, so I'm going to bring you over here, hopefully, without tripping, and find where those fresh cuts were. And try to show you how we just brush it on there. This way, you can be really precise with where you're putting your chemicals. Let's see if I can get in there. I just fresh cut that, and now I'm just gonna brush some of the what I call old school brush be gone, or the poison ivy killer, right on that fresh cut, and that'll kill it right down to the root. And I'm not spraying a whole bunch of chemical all over this area. So you can see it's really precise. It's an easy way to do it. So I'm going to continue to work on this and probably get pretty bloody because those prickers are nasty. And I will give you a update in a little bit. All right, guys, here it is. I reclaimed my area. Goodbye, brambles. And now my little Russian cypress might have a chance to actually do what it's supposed to do. And the soil actually didn't look too bad. So I'm going to resist the urge to plant there because I know those brambles are coming back. They always do. All right, so next project after I clean up this enormous mess of yuck is to plant up my strawberry pot. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Hi guys, welcome back. So I promised you planting strawberries in a container. I'm choosing to do them in a container because I don't have a spot in the yard that's really good for growing strawberries. And we all like strawberries in the house, so I said, well, why not? We can do it in a container. During the winter, I'll just tuck it underneath my wraparound in a protected area, and we'll see how they do. I'll keep you guys updated on that. So what I chose was this giant pot. It's shallow because the strawberries don't have a huge root system, so you don't need a whole lot of soil below. The other thing that I want to mention is when you plant in a container, make sure it has drainage. And when you buy plastic containers like this, usually there's a plug right here. And I always forget to take the plug out until afterward. And so today I remembered, yay. So anyway, so that's the container that I'm choosing. And I have 7 strawberry plants I'm gonna be putting in there. The ones that I chose are called Eversweet, and it's an ever-bearing strawberry. We carry 2 different types. We carry the ever-bearing and we carry a June-bearing. The ever-bearing, generally you get your strawberries at the normal time that strawberries come out, but they tend to be a little bit smaller. And then they continue throughout the entire season. So you kind of get them through the entire summer here and there. June-bearing are your larger strawberries, the big, giant, juicy ones, but they only bear for a little bit and then they're done for the rest of the season. So I chose the ever-bearing because we like to eat them all year long. So those are the ones that I chose. The soil that I like to use is the Coast of Maine. This is an organic soil. It's great. It drains really, really well. It has some nutrients in it. And again, it's organic. So if you're planting something that you want to eat, organic's the way to go for that. So I'm going to walk you through this. It's really simple, just like planting anything else in a container. So I'm going to dump your soil in. I think I need more than 1 bag. That one was an open bag. And when you fill your containers, you always want to remember to leave at least an inch or 2 on the top for your water to collect. Because if not, it's right up to the top of the pot itself. When you go to water, the water just pours out the sides and it doesn't drain in. So you definitely want to leave that area on the top. Break up any clumps that you might have. Real simple. Get your hands dirty. That's what it's all about, right? Get your hands dirty. You can see this has a really nice mix. It's got some perlite and vermiculite in it. And it's really fluffy. It's great soil. I'm really happy with this Coast of Maine soil. It's new for us this year. We've done some of their other products, which I like too. So I'm gonna flatten it out. Whenever I plant anything, I always use Biotone. I've mentioned that quite a few times. This is Biotone. Planting in containers or in the ground, I always use this. It's your plant starter fertilizer. It really gives the plants a really good start. And it's like your baby food. I'm gonna throw some of that in. mix it in to the soil to give these strawberries a really good start. So just get it in there at the root zone. All right, we're ready to go. So I'm gonna start popping these in. Real simple, just make your hole and you plant at the same level that the plant was planted at to begin with. I can get these done pretty quick. Just pop them in. Strawberries shoot off little babies, so eventually this pot will become pretty full as long as I contain the babies. You want to try to keep them from jumping off the side of the pot and then down to the ground, because they'll take in the ground and then they continue to run, and if they're not where you want them to go, then that's not a good thing. That's 4. I think I can squeeze 7 in here. Really nice and full. Just spacing them out a couple inches apart. Nice thing about containers is you can control the moisture, which in the ground sometimes you can't. So if it looks like it's going to be, hi Fred, yes, are you helping? Hi, yes, that's Fred. You guys heard him earlier, my earlier video. All right, so that's it, got them all in there. The next thing I'm going to do is, I did the starter fertilizer in the soil itself, but I'm going to give them a top dress of this berry tone, which is also put out by Espoma. This is formulated for all of your berries. So strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, any of your berries will really, really, really like this fertilizer, and it's organic. I'm just going to top dress a little bit around them. Give them a good boost. And with this fertilizer, you're going to want to do it twice a year. So you can do it right at planting, or if they're already planted, do it early spring. And then about mid-season, give them another little sprinkle. Just kind of rough it up a little. So that's it. It was easy as that. Some people put straw on top of their strawberries so that the berries themselves don't lay on the soil, because they'll rot faster. We had this at the store, which was kind of beat up, this cocoa mat. So I think I'm going to cut this and I'm going to place it around there instead of my straw. It's going to help hold the moisture in, and again, like I said, it'll keep the berries from touching the soil itself. But that's all there is to it. Now we're going to have a whole pot of strawberries that we get to enjoy all summer long, and then we'll see how they do over the winter. So I'll touch base with you guys on that later, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.